I will share some insights, opportunity, and good practices in this talk. And what I mean, my insights, because as Gunnar just said, Stars EU is a relatively new thing. I would call it, it's like a kind of startup. We are doing across our 9 partner universities, and it mainly in the beginning it has been driven from my perspective by teaching activities and TIC activities. So I talk about TICs and BIPs. I talk about the benefits you can generate from your engagement in Stars in You, and I share some what I consider as good practices. And for the ones who are in hurry or have to leave early, maybe I give you a quick summary of my talk, which will mean get involved into Stars EU, one of the most diverse and interesting activities as a lecturer and researcher for me. But let me give you some more details why I think it's so very interesting. Myself, you need to a little bit know from which perspective I'm looking into Stars EU. I'm professor for business administration, social entrepreneurship, and startup management. I'm active in 2 very wonderful organized and managed TICs. The one is entrepreneurship and innovation, and the other one social justice and inclusion. And they play a very important role, which I will talk about later. I have been participant in 5 BIPs, teachers and student BIPs as well, in annual meetings. I'm currently organizing a BIP as well, so I learn the organizational side as well, and quite a few different other Stars EU linked activities. And overall, I'm involved for 2 years now into Stars EU. And I got involved randomly, as I can say, by before even I started working here at the university. A colleague approached me and said, "Oh, I'm doing a bit. It's entrepreneurship." And I said, "Oh, that sounds interesting. Entrepreneurship is some interest." And honestly, in my previous academic career, I was not that much interested in internationalization. I was very local. I'm a teaching entrepreneurship. I work with local startup, local business, and the world outside my local hood, as you can say, I was not that into. And he said, "Come on, it would be great if you help." Don't know whether here, Stefan Form, a wonderful colleague, he's organizing BIP himself. So I started from the first day, said, "Okay, let's find out what it's all about." And you have to be aware, I have no targets agreement. So everything I do for Stars EU is voluntary, and I'm a professor in Germany. I have freedom of teaching and research, and it was a perfect timing for me to get into it and say, "Wow, that sounds like a very interesting opportunity to get engaged in something like I haven't done before, dealing with international universities that much." And my mindset in business, you come from real science, you like navigating complexity, you look always for good practices. That means whenever I want to do something, I want to find out, is it good practice? Does it make sense? And I'm a little bit rushing sometimes into topics because entrepreneurship is all about develop ideas and fail fast. And I like to work with other faculties, particularly because we know the big challenges in our society today in Europe, they need to be addressed interdisciplinary. And I saw a good opportunity to work with other faculties. And my personal view is to say what is the essence to make Stars EU successful. The long-term success of Stars EU will depend on how effectively we can establish a network with strong and weak ties, bridging diverse perspectives and objectives. And that's, on the other hand, the challenge as well we address, because we come from different faculties, from different cultural backgrounds, and we need to understand what unites us, how we can connect, and how we can work together. And this is an exciting opportunity and it's a challenge as well. And Stars EU gives a lot of training ground for that, to train yourself, to make aware how different approaches work. The main format, I think most of you are familiar with these formats. I started in thematic interest groups called the TICs. They are the priority areas or collaborations. And with TICs, naturally, these blended intensive programs follow, which are short, intensive teaching programs of mostly 1 week, mostly with an online period before. they are available for students and teachers. And this is mostly for most people, I would say, the starting point, at least in my faculty so far. And from this, we are currently moving on into collaborative research, because if you want to do research with another, you need to know each other, you need to trust each other. And these BIPs and TICs are a great opportunity that you can get known to each other, become familiar with each other, and find common interests for collaborative research and for publication as well. And the nice thing, of course, is here you have a great variety. You can do individual projects, but you could also apply for Horizon Europe, for example. So everything is possible in the end. It's mainly on what you want to do and how much time and resources you have. Many of my colleagues are engaged in development of study programs, curriculum innovation and alignment. It's currently not my area, but if you're interested in these areas, for example, you can get engaged in well, and you can align study programs. I know my colleague Ulrich Krüger and Celia Berger from Besançon is very active in this area, talking about ideas, what could be possible. You have COILS, collaborative online international learning formats, which is something relatively new to me. I think they are currently emerging. And you see, even if you think, oh, this is not my perfect fit to something, there are other opportunities coming, other formats. It's very flexible in what you can do, STARS EU. And there are so many opportunities you can just do the traditional lectures and guest talks and exchange with it. And there are probably many other things I forgot to mention at this place. For the students shortly, hopefully there might be a few students in participating today. The issue is a little bit, at least at our faculties, there's still a low awareness of BIPs among students. And it's challenging for them to understand what is structure funding, even if we have a very supportive back office, and our Erasmus office is working very well supporting them. And they have conflicts with their regular class schedule. You still expect to have a high commitment, because quite often students are doing this on top. And this is something you need to understand. If they want to participate, you need to motivate them. You have to explain. And whenever I start a semester term, I start to the students talking about STARS EU, because honestly, they will forget it next week. Then I talk again about STARS EU, and after time, they become familiar what STARS EU is all about. And then luckily now I have a few references from other students. They talk about STARS EU as well. And they say, oh, you have to participate. It's the best thing you can do. You can go to a national country, you meet international students, you live together, you work together, you learn together. It's one of the best experience they have. And it's a growing community. But I think we still need to have more ambassadors among the students, but they are very essential. But finally, whenever you talk to them, they're absolutely happy with the outcome of these BIPs and activities in STARS EU. What are my personal benefits I get? First, from a local perspective. As a new appointed professor, it was very helpful for me to learn about organizational processes and workflows, how they work, because you are allowed to do something on your own, talk to the community. And a lot of people always say, Martin, why do you know so many people here? Because I'm involved in STARS EU. And I get in touch with them, I talk to them, they are all very helpful. And it's a fast track to build your organizational network and create touch points with colleagues across disciplines. For example, we're having a BIP in December about over-indebtedness. And because I was interested in over-indebtedness from a social innovation, I was approaching other people. And then I found out a colleague of mine who's a lawyer is an expert in over-indebtedness as well. And probably could have taken years to find out whether we have some common ground. And STARS EU facilitated this connection and building these ties. And you build ties to your staff, to your units, because they get involved in these activities. And of course, this is, I think, the next level. You can collaborate with external partners. You can integrate companies, local organizations into your activities in STARS EU. And they get in touch with an international audience, in particular when it comes to policies, social question, but also in engineering and architecture as well. It's great to have this international network and learn from other countries and other regions as well. And you can finally experiment with new teaching and research idea, because you have to bring STARS EU activities to life. And it's what you are doing on a teaching level and on a research level that will create what will be visible about STARS EU. And you're pretty flexible in what you can do. And very good note for the poor ones among us, you get funding for a lot of activities in the end. So you get assistance for traveling, you get assistance for organizing BIP. There's some money in this game. And this is, of course, always very helpful. From an international activity, you get access to an international network. You know this network, it's a large network, it's really nice. You can train your international mindset in working with people. And you see this nice picture. This is my wonderful colleague, Derek Barker from Hansa. After we worked back to the faculty in La Laguna, talking about what we can do together and sharing insights in entrepreneurship and potential projects. And you learn how things are managed at other universities, and you have, and that's very important, you have quality time with colleagues and international friends, because you sit on a plane, you sit on a train, you sit together, you can talk about topics in more detail to exchange, because you spend simply more time together, and spending time together helps to facilitate ideas and new projects. And of course, to be honest, what I'm always like to do is add some good time for myself. You have a week, a BIP, for example, which starts Monday to Friday. You can add on an extended weekend, maybe in a nice location, and spend a few extra days there and do something good for yourself as well after a hard week of working, or being prepared for a hard week of working as well. Finally, I think, and this is something that becomes even more important these days, is celebrating the EU. When I was a young child, I remember when we traveled, I had a grandmother living in France. We had friends in Netherlands. Whenever we came to the border, we had to check our papers and show our passports. We had to exchange money. And I think this wonderful thing of a united Europe is under pressure currently. And we should connect. And I think we are like-minded individuals who share common values and beliefs, and we should celebrate what we have achieved over the past decades, and we should stand up for it and tell people how exciting it is to have barrier-free travel to most countries, shared in most our partner the same currency, and to give this mindset to our students as well, who grown up in this and see it as something normal to a certain extent already, and have sometimes no idea how hard it was to achieve this united Europe and come to a flag like this one. And this always helps if we can bring Europe to a personal level, which means meeting researchers, meeting students. They make connection among each other, and they are very, very get connected, and building these relationships across our borders, which are still existing to a extent. And currently, I came back from Brussels last week. I was afraid of what I saw at the German border at the moment, that I was a traffic jam. I had to show my passport to get into Germany back from Belgium. And it was pretty annoying experience to me, and I was pretty sad about it as well. So how could you start in STARS EU if you want to engage? What I would recommend as a lecturer or more research minded person is, first thing I would recommend, is join a TIC. So because the TIP are the thematic interest group, this is where people meet, talk about similar topics. As I said, I'm part of the entrepreneurship and innovation part and social justice and exclusion as well. And you meet people who are relatively similar to what they teach, to what areas they research. And the big thing is you can simply listen to the people, see what's going on. And all the TIC leaders I work together are very helpful, very open-minded. They're very good in integrating new people into these TICs, and we have open doors in these TICs. However, I would also recommend to find you a mentor who's already maybe in a certain TIC, who gives you some guidance, explains you a little bit about the functionalities, about some buzzwords maybe you're not familiar with, or certain activities, and he can be helpful, or make sure at least that you take part in a TIC because you missed it, you were not integrated in the email in the first place, and a person who also motivates you. And then you understand, you take your time, understand formal, informal processes, how things work. And to a certain extent, then you have to learn about deadlines as well, which is a challenging path because we work with funding programs, particularly Erasmus Plus. They have certain funding deadlines, they're different. And they're currently one of the bottlenecks if you want to organize things because we have different things. But this is something you will learn by thing. And then explore the different activities which pop out of TICs and your network you will create, which is, for example, Stars EU Talk, upcoming coils, and whatever. We have Stars EU lectures, for example, IPB and Braganza is very active in organizing Stars EU lectures, for example. And then if you feel comfortable and say, okay, I want to be more active, the next step would be apply for some funding and participate in a bit of your topic. And you find very extensive lists on the Stars EU websites. Follow Stars EU on Instagram, and you get information on what BIPs are planned and where you can participate. And always keep in mind, Stars EU is an evolving project. It's not something that has very clear structure where we have clear when BIPs happen, not happen. It happens, it's done by you and me on the ground while we come up with idea for BIPs, for activities, for research project. So there's no clear guidance, which is very positive because there's a lot of space for engagement. If I look forward, I would recommend for the advanced beginners, I would say what could be for us the next thing. We need to still to emphasize, because we have different structures, different framework at our universities, and we need to respect that we have challenges we have to meet, and try to put yourself into position of your Stars EU colleagues. Because you want to do something in a certain way doesn't mean that the other person wants to do it in the same way. We always have to find common ground to be successful. Engage in these TICs, even if you sometimes see that, oh, it's not the topic. These TICs and BIPs, from my personal perspective, are the foundation of the alliance for us as lecturers and researchers. And we have to keep them active and vibrant, even if it sometimes work a lot. But this is where we meet, where we connect, where we build our network. And we should, of course, align our activities. That means I personally find it very helpful to engage in planning activities as well, to talk to the people who are members of committees, to participate in annual conferences, because there you learn the bigger picture of Stars in EU. What are the areas you want to address, which sometimes are not a little bit far away from you as someone who does teaching and research, but it helps you also to come up with new ideas. And you know this phrase, ask not what Stars EU can do for you, ask what you can do for Stars EU. In the first place, we live and the dynamic from Stars EU comes from try to find what is it you can contribute, because if we all contribute, a lot of things will happen. And just waiting that someone will pick you up and says, come on, might happen. but the sophisticated and the welcoming culture of Stars EU comes from these very motivated people. And of course, in the end, we should regularly recognize and celebrate our good work and achievement across the network. Because we have achieved a lot, I have been involved, or I was at the sideline of other university Star Alliance, and I must say, for just 2 years, we are pretty good on track. From my person, I don't know how it stacks up to KPIs and these things, but I have a feeling, but there's a lot of dynamic and activities going on, and it's something that's working really nice. My personal outlook, what is it I'm planning to do? For example, how I use Stars EU for the things I like to do. There are 2 upcoming BIPs, student BIPs, which means students get involved in December in Bremen. One is organized by my colleague Stefan Form, Entrepreneurship Innovation, starting. Oh, sorry, that's the starting of the end date. It's the week ending on the 5th of December. And there's another very interesting BIP on social justice inclusion, focusing on over-indebtedness and simply money matters in a social context, which is in the second week. And the good news, the Christmas market is already open at Bremen. So if you're interested to meet your colleagues across the Stars EU network and maybe having a nice mulled wine or a Christmas cookie at the Christmas market, you're very welcome to join one of these BIPs. And if you're interested in the second one, I would be your contact person for that. What I would like to do more, and this is something I'm currently working, is I would like to have more inter-collaboration with other faculties. For example, recently we had a TIC in Braganza, sustainability, and I had the opportunity to take architecture students with me as well. And this was very helpful, business student, architecture student on the topic of sustainability. We need more people, and also in social justice and inclusion, that's an interdisciplinary topic. We need the insights from different faculties, which would be very helpful. Additionally, what I also plan is my first test ground is I have a lecture in entrepreneurship, and I would like to match my entrepreneurship students with startup teams from our partner countries that they work together on business ideas. For example, there's a student team maybe based in Krakow, and they need some business support because they are very technical orientated. They're doing the next big thing maybe in quantum computer science, but they have no idea how to write a business plan or do a market analysis. My students can step in and support these entrepreneurs by doing their business side. And finally, I'm also working on the idea, which is very early stage, to extend BIP a little bit, because BIPs are nice, week are very nice, maybe to have an extended BIP over 3 weeks where we have interdisciplinary challenge-based programs with partners, where we can work like a little bit like a smaller extended BIP and working together. So you see, if you have ideas, I don't know whether these things will work. There are currently my minimum viable products, as we say in entrepreneurship. I try to find out whether other people are interested in. If you are interested in one of these activities and to co-organize or just to take part or learn more about it, please get in touch with me. And I'm very helpful, very keen on giving you more details on what I'm planning to do in this. And if you have interesting things I'm not aware of, do the same thing, please, because I'm looking for interesting formats, collaborations across faculties, across our partner universities. And if I'm not cannot be helpful, I'm very helpful to find out who could be a good person to talk to you. So finalizing my summary is as I said at the very beginning, get involved in STARS EU. It's one of the most diverse and interesting activities as lecturers, researchers, and I would say as staff as well, and students. But I'm not a student, not from a staff perspective, but I'm pretty sure, and I'm sure for students, I can say for students, they really enjoy STARS EU activity, and I would say as a staff, probably you will enjoy it as well. And my final, as I said before, keep the STARS EU spirit growing by us how you can contribute to this wonderful experience of STARS EU. That's my closing remark. And now I saved a few minutes. I'm open for questions and any feedbacks you have.
Thank you very much, Martin. Very interesting, and yeah, I think there's a lot of food for thoughts for many of us in this on your take and your what you experienced and your what kind of things that you wanted to put forward here. So thank you again very much. I would leave the floor open then to if there are any questions or comments or anything for Martin to act or react to. Do you have any? We have one in the chat that we could perhaps start up with. It's from Beatrice at ULL in Spain, and she says that sometimes faculty members tells us that they want to join the TIG, but they are so but their areas are so specific that they don't fit in the TIG. There's almost always some way to accommodate them, though although some give up. Could you give us your opinion on the best way to do it? How to include if if it's not the perfect match or full fit?
Yeah, of course, it depends on the individual case. For example, let's go to our social and justice and inclusion BIP, which I would say is pretty diverse. We have lots of different perspectives on diversity and inclusion. And I think the challenge is, of course, you'd have some persistence in a certain way that you stay there and you regularly talk about your topic. And unfortunately, it can happen, of course, that you don't find a match. But so far, I'm aware if you're very specific and just say, this is the only thing I want to do. But if you start talking about, like I mentioned the example of over-indebtedness, if you start talking about, you find a lot of connections between different areas. And maybe it takes some time, and you have to be aware, not all the time all the TIC members are there. And sometimes your message gets lost. So stay in a TIC, have some, and it's, I think, not a big time investment. Stay there and wait. Maybe someone will join because maybe next week or next month, someone will join who might be a fit for you, but you have left the TIC already. And now you're gone, you can't match. So we need a little bit of patience here, and sometimes it works nice, like in my case, but I know I have other topics where I would like to work, but I don't find a match in a certain way. And honestly, we have to have a little bit of flexibility. It might be not 100%, but quite often it's far more than 50% of a match.
Yeah, thank you very much, Martin. And I could perhaps give a comment on that as well, depending on that. The thematic groups, the TIGs that we have at present are based on the regional specializations of the regions that we are working within, and they're what they have stated. But many of the groups, the TIGs, are quite broad. When we talk about entrepreneurship, it could be very broad in many senses. When you talk about digitalization, it's almost anything is interfered or acted by the digitalization of society and so on. So I think that it could be a good fit for almost anyone, but it all depends. I would really, I appreciate what you say, that you should have an open mind and be persistent to find a place.
Additionally, of course, because you mentioned entrepreneurship, we in entrepreneurship mostly are business people. We miss engineers, architects, care workers, these kind of things. And even if you don't want to be on a permanent basis, you can come, attend, and pitch your idea, what you have, and maybe you find someone. It doesn't mean you're on one tick and you're not only allowed to go to this ticks. Ticks are, as I said, very open. You can come there, pitch your ideas, what you want, and find out whether you have a match. If you're not sure, is it better innovation or digitization or any other topic?
Yeah, we have several more questions or in the chat. The next one's from Rodrigo at ULL as well. Do you think that PhD students and young researchers have to be in the center of promotion of collaboration for future? If you agree, how?
Honestly, it depends on your partner universities, because, for example, we here in Bremen, we do not have many PhD students. Therefore, we're not very active in this area. I know other universities are very active, and I'm not very good in giving you an outlook on how PhD can be involved. However, they can be involved in what I mentioned before in the end. But will there be anything particular for PhD students? I'm probably not the best person to talk about, because I know other universities are in the lead in this area.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm Rodrigo, who asked, and myself and several in here are also very involved with the challenge lab and the research and the research activities, and we're trying to promote young and emerging researchers in many ways. So that's something that is going on and be developed further. I believe for the future. We actually have a mentoring program for young and emerging researchers that we want to implement into all the partners in the alliance. Jan from Bremen stated also in the chat that if you're interested in developing a BIP, Curriculum Lab provides some insight through short workshops, and these are advertised as well, that you will have some short workshops on how to develop TIGs and how to actually go about to do this. So I think that there's a link in the chat for those that are interested. So thank you very much, John. Celia, I love your citation on the contribute. Interesting talk, Martin. Thank you. And also that reach out to TIG leaders and tell them what to do. And usually we can find a way to include those that are interested, she said. And I believe her on that. Okay, these are the ones that we have received in the chat, but please open up. You could start up your cameras and show the video, so we will see each other and perhaps have more and other questions or comments for Martin for this informative and interesting contribution talk to about how to develop and how to be involved in the STARS EU as a project and an alliance. So please, are there more and others? I don't see it at the moment. Then I could ask one thing that I was thinking about, Martin, regarding your experience and involvement in the project and activities in TIGs and different BIBs and so on. What do you see is the thing that would improve most by being introduced? Which kind of support is lacking? What do you think that we need more and better to support the development of the alliance?
Honestly, I think you're on a good track. I think it's, as I said, opportunities to meet and each other, to have a meet and greet sometimes that I know what you're doing, for example, Gunnar, and probably there is a connection in some way. Maybe you're interested in entrepreneurship or Gunnar, or innovation, whatever you do, but the touch points, I think, are essential in this early stage, that you meet people, find out who you can talk to, and then you can come up with ideas when you find out what it is, because we have a distance between us, unfortunately, and if any measure, any activities to increased proximity would be helpful, I guess, to find out what other people are doing, who can I contact. I know our back office are very helpful in doing that, but the more intermediates we have, most likely the message get lost somehow. And if we can talk directly or with only a very few intermediates, it will be helpful for us, because we need this interaction, like atoms that are somehow binding together, and a very nice molecule comes out, something new creates out of that. That would be my thing too, because we're in an early stage.
Yeah, I totally agree that the connections or the interconnections and activities that we actually know about each other, about their interest and possibilities, and we are still in the phase of trying to get improve the amount of contacts and knowledge between the different partners and the persons and the groups and the areas between the universities in the alliance. And that's a tricky one, but it could involve by that we actually meet up or virtually or physically and learn more about each other and find mutual interests. We also have a question in the chat about, is there any platform to find partners for a certain topic? And I don't know if we want to start on that, Martin, or should I try to assist? It all depends on the because we are still 9 individual universities with different how we arranged and how we do things. There are organized information and structures between the on the educational side when it comes to the curriculum lab, on stakeholder involvement and regional in the RTA for regional transition and for research in the challenge lab, and also that the TIGs are having a dialogue and contact and so on. But when it comes to open, it's only through the website, and at this time it's only on educational, how to put up suggestions on BIPs to find other partners and so on. So it's a balance between how we inform into our universities, and because if we leave it totally open, it could be anybody outside the alliance as well. So it's information is always tricky, how to get the information to the right people at the right time. So I think there could be an improvement to this, but we are working on it, and I hope it will be more and better over time when it comes to information about the possibilities and interconnections. We are looking together with the Regional Transition Accelerator on some kind of platform, how to find each other on mutual interest better. Any more or other? I saw that Stephanie, yes, I do agree. You can contact the STARS EU officer at your university. They will be the main contact person, the person in that could address and find which kind of opportunities and suitable contacts there will be. And that's a good remark, very much so, because they should be one-stop contact normally. Yes, any other question or remarks? Any other comment? If not, I would very much like to thank you, Martin, for giving this nice talk, interesting presentation. It's very important to actually get this information that we on different people included in the work in the alliance. But what do you see? What do you feel? Which are the possibilities? Which are the different things that could benefit the development? So it's been very, very interesting, and thank you again, Martin, for giving this talk. And thank you all for participating. in the talk, and I hope and think that we will meet in the future, physically or virtually. So thank you all for joining in and be part of this webinar today.
Thanks a lot for the invitation from my side. So, thanks for joining this session.